Good morning, class. So today we'll continue with your asthma. Yesterday I could not explain properly about your diagnosis and classification due to lack of time. Okay, so I'll explain it today again, and then we'll go into another disease, which is your pneumonia. Okay, but before that I want you all to switch on your videos, so kindly do that. Okay, so yesterday we were talking about your asthma. So I gave you a classification. Okay, did you understood that classification? See, I'll repeat that once again about the classification. See, regarding the classification, asthma is divided into your four types. Okay, mild, intermittent, mild persistent, moderate persistent, and severe persistent. So when I say intermittent, intermittent means it comes and goes. Okay, so the clinical features, sign and symptoms of asthma along with the asthma attacks, so these will come and go from time to time. So that is your intermittent. And when I say persistent, persistent means these clinical features, they do not go away. Okay, they remain with the person, so it is called your persistent. So when the disease is at your mild stage, so when the disease is mild, it can either be your intermittent or persistent. Okay, both. So when it is mild intermittent, so you will have mild clinical features. Okay, the clinical features will not be severe. And then when in case of your mild intermittent, you will experience the symptoms like 2 days a week. Okay, and up to 2 nights a month. Okay, so 2 days in a week you will experience the symptom either for 2 days, not more than that, or for 2 nights in a month. Okay, and it will not be more than that. So it is mild intermittent. Since I said intermittent, which means it will come and go. Now for your mild persistent, clinical feature will be more than twice a month. Okay, for mild intermittent it was 2 days, 2 days or less than 2 days. For mild persistent, the clinical feature will last your more than twice a month. Okay, more than twice a week, sorry, more than twice a week, but no more than once in a single day. So in a week you will be experience the clinical feature for 2 times or for more than 2 times. Okay, but no, only once in a single day. It will not be more than once in a single day. That is your mild persistent. After that comes your moderate persistent. So clinical feature will be once a day and more than one night a week. Okay, so every day you will face the clinical symptom in case of your moderate persistent. Okay, once a day, but still it is once a day only, not more than that. And then more than one night a week. So in a single week you will experience the signs and symptoms for more than one night. Okay, and last is your severe persistent. So what will happen in severe persistent is clinical features will be throughout the day or on most of the days and frequently at night. So it is severe persistent. So the clinical features will be your severe and it will not go away. So they will last like throughout the day. Okay, for most of the days throughout the day you will be experiencing the signs and symptoms, and then they will aggravate during your night time. Okay, during the night time your signs and symptoms will aggravate. So these are the classification. And also you need to know, you can note that down, this disease, that bronchial asthma, no, it has got a diurnal pattern. Diurnal pattern means whether the disease is more at night or more at day. Okay, so this is called your diurnal pattern. And the symptoms of your asthma, these are worse in the morning. Okay, the symptoms of asthma are worse in the morning. That is the diurnal pattern of asthma. You can note that down. diurnal, diurnal. Diurnal pattern means where this pattern decides whether the signs and symptoms will be more at night or at day. And the signs and symptoms of asthma were found to be more in the early morning, because the cold used to be more in the early morning. Okay, so especially in the winter season, the early morning, these are worse for the people with asthma. Okay, so you can note that down for the diurnal pattern. So we were talking about your diagnosis. So regarding the diagnosis, you will have some physical examination, the lung function test with your spirometer. Then there is another device which you call as peak flow meter. So with this peak flow meter, your doctor will measure how hard you can breathe out. Okay, how far means how effective is your exhalation. Okay, so since this is an obstructive disease, you will have problem with your exhalation. So they will find out how hard or how effectively you can breathe out. Next, I told you about methacholine challenge. Okay, that is in your notes about the methacholine challenge. So this methacholine challenge, what happens is that this methacholine, it is a chemical substance which trigger asthma. Okay, so it will trigger the clinical features of asthma. So they will make you inhale this methacholine. Okay, so once you inhale or once you breathe in methacholine, it will go into your airway. Okay, so after it goes into your airway, it will slightly make your airway narrower, and this will have some reaction. So after the reactions, you will start showing the signs and symptoms of asthma. So these are the provocative test. Okay, in one way or the other, you can say this is a provocative test. This is just to check, means the irritants which will cause asthma, these are given to the person. Okay, the person is being exposed to these irritants, and after that it is checked whether the person is showing the symptoms or not. Okay, so this is your methacholine. Next, under your provocative testing, you also have about your exercise and cold induced. So in case of your exercise, your doctor will make you do some physical activities, okay, some kind of exercises, and then they will check your breathing pattern, okay, whether you are able to inhale as well as exhale. Okay, both inhalation and exhalation, they will check for both, like before the exercise and after the exercise. Okay, so whether it is same or is there a difference. So the people with asthma, as you know that there is a kind which is the exercise induced kind. So the people who are having this exercise induced asthma, they will start showing the symptoms after exercising. Similarly, the for it is similar for your cold. So they will make you breathe in cold air. Okay, too much of cold air, they will make you stand in a cold environment. So after some period of time, they will check whether your breathing pattern is normal like it was before, even after the exposure to cold. Or if they start showing symptoms, then they can call it the cold induced asthma. Okay, clear till now the diagnosis and classification? Okay, now regarding the treatment, I showed you yesterday there was this pump which you call as the quick relief inhaler. So most of you have seen that. Okay, not maybe in real life, but in TVs and all, they usually show this pump. Okay, so whenever there is this shortness of breath, they take this pump which provides your quick relief. So it has usually salbutamol in it. So okay, so salbutamol, that is a very effective medication and a very common one, most common one, that is used in your asthma. So it is also used in your nebulization therapy, that is converting the liquid form into your mist form. So that is your salbutamol. Then there are some other medications, I have given you the name. So they're like terbutaline, salmeterol. So these are the different bronchodilators. Now why bronchodilators? Because these have narrowed your bronchioles or your airways. Asthma narrows your airways. So when you take bronchodilators, they will widen up the airways. because of that bronchodilators are needed. Some will be your short acting and some will have longer effects. So the long acting ones usually last for about like 12 hours. Okay, so these are for your treatment. Apart from that, we can go for some physiotherapeutic treatments, for example a breathing exercise, then coughing out whatever mucus you have. So these are the physiotherapy techniques. And then apart from it, there is a surgery which you call as bronchial thermoplasty. So bronchial thermoplasty, there is no incision, okay, it is a minimally invasive technique. There are no such incision or cut marks are needed to carry on this surgery. So what you will do is you will give gentle heat to your airways. Okay, then what will happen, the muscles, the tightened muscles, they get smoothened. Okay, after getting the heat they get smoothened, and then your breathing pattern will be back to normal. Okay, means the signs and symptoms will start reducing after this therapy, that is bronchial thermoplasty. So this was about your classification, diagnosis and treatment. Clear? Yes, ma'am. Okay. So today we'll go into another disease which is your pneumonia. Okay. Now pneumonia is the rest that I was teaching you. Those were your obstructive lung disease. Pneumonia is a restrictive lung disease. So what do you think will be the problem in inhalation or exhalation? For a restrictive lung disease, there will be problem with inhalation or exhalation. Yes, any one of you can say whether there will be problem with inhalation or exhalation in case of a restrictive lung disease. See, in case of an obstructive lung disease, there was problem with your exhalation. Okay, inhalation might be affected, but that is secondary, or that is because of the problem with exhalation. Okay, but mainly in obstructive your exhalation is affected, and in case of your restrictive lung disease your inhalation is affected. Okay, so now pneumonia is a restrictive lung disease, so mainly your inhalation will be affected, and there will also be stiffening of your chest. Okay, stiffening of your lungs. So because of that reason you will start getting problems with your inhalation. Okay, that is the main definition of restrictive lung disease, that is your lungs will start getting stiffened, and as a result you will start experiencing symptoms. Okay, so now pneumonia. So what happens in pneumonia is that this is an infection that inflames your air sacs, okay, in one or both the lungs. Air sacs means the alveoli. So your alveoli will be inflamed. Now you might be thinking that in emphysema also your air sacs were affected, okay, and your alveoli were inflamed. But in case of emphysema, your alveoli were filled with gas or with air. But in case of pneumonia, your air sacs will be filled with fluid. Okay, fluid or pus. Pus means a purulent material. So your air sacs are filled with pus or fluid, that is your alveoli. So this will lead to your cough, and the cough might also contain pus. Along with it you will have fever, chills and breathing difficulty. Okay, and a variety of organisms. Okay, not only virus but along with virus, bacteria and fungi, this can also lead to pneumonia. For some people pneumonia can be a mild case, but in some it can be a life threatening one. Okay, it is most serious in case of your infants, young children and people who are older than 65 years of age, and also the people who have weakened immune system. So their immunity is already low, their immune status is already low. So when they will have another infection of pneumonia, so they will experience severe signs and symptoms. Can you see this? So first one is a diagram of your normal alveoli, okay, where your alveoli were only containing the good air, that is the oxygen. So that is the function of alveoli. Now in case of emphysema, they are filled with more than required amount of air, and usually that air is your carbon dioxide. Now here in case of pneumonia, you can see these are filled with your fluid. Can you see this? In this whitish brown color, so this is all your fluid, okay, that is contained in your alveoli. See this? So first one is your, as you can see here, this is a healthy alveoli, and here your alveoli is filled with fluid. Okay, this side your lung is healthy. The other side you can see that there is inflammation in the lung. So this will result in your stiffening of the lung. And again there is, you can see this side normal bronchiole, this side there is blockage of bronchiole because it is filled with your these purulent substances, that is the fluid, and also there is pus and mucus. Along with it there is inflammation. So there is this blockage of the bronchiole. So this side you can see everything is normal, there is a healthy lung, and this side this is an infected lung. You have inflammation, alveoli which is filled with fluid, and also there is this blockage of the bronchiole. So this is your pneumonia. Clear pneumonia? Clear about the definition of pneumonia? Okay, if you have got any doubts, you can ask me, okay? After that comes your signs and symptoms. So you will have chest pain. Chest pain means your angina. So chest pain when you breathe or when you cough, okay? Then again there is confusion or mental changes, usually in case of the older adults who are more than your 65 years of age. Then you will have cough which will produce your mucus, that is your productive cough. Along with it you will have fatigue. Fatigue means tiredness. Then there will be your fever. So along with any kind of infection, as I told you, fever is like an alarm. So whenever you will have this infection, there will be a rise in temperature, okay, to indicate that there is some problem with your body. So that is you will get fever, and also you will get some chills, okay, shaking, chills, and sweating. But in case of the people like who have weak immune system, and in case of the older adults, no, there will be lower than normal body temperature, okay, usually the body temperature will rise and you will have fever. But in case of the older adults and people with weak immune system, you will get a lower than normal body temperature because their immune system will not be able to respond that there is a like foreign particle in your body. The immune system will not recognize that in case of this older adults and with people with weaker immunity. So as a result, there will be no fever or alarm in your body that there is an infection. So what will happen is that the body temperature will get lowered, and along with this you will have this shortness of breathing, then nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. Nausea means tendency to vomit. And the newborns and infants, they do not have the signs and symptoms, okay. The only sign and symptom they will have is they will appear restless, okay, and some kind of breathing difficulty. They will like not feel like eating, you will be unable to feed them, and also they will start vomiting, okay. Now let's discuss about the high risk groups. So what are high risk groups? So these are the group of people who are more prone to get the disease or the infection easily. So these are your older adults who are more than age 65, okay, and children younger than the age of 2. So the younger children and the people who are above 65. So both these two kind of people, that is these two groups, will have lower immunity. So the chances of getting an infection will be more. And the people with any kind of underlying health condition, for example, the people with diabetes mellitus, the people with hypertension, and the people with conditions like your HIV AIDS. So these people have already a weakened immune system that is already compromised. so it is easier to get the infection. Okay, and also usually people take certain medications, okay, to suppress the immune system. Now why? In case of your autoimmune diseases. So what are autoimmune diseases? Autoimmune diseases means the ones in which your body or your body's immune system, they start killing your own cells. Okay, your body's own cells are destroyed by your body itself because they are not able to recognize what is a foreign particle and what is your own body's particle. So as a result, they start destroying your own body. So that is an overactivated immune system. So in such cases, people start taking your immunosuppressant drugs, means the drugs that suppress your immune system or that suppress the activity of your immune system. So in these cases, when these people are receiving such kind of treatment or therapy, if they get other kind of infection where strong immunity is required, so in these cases the immune system will not be able to respond. So these people are also at a higher risk. Clear? Clear till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Next comes your causes. Now pneumonia is classified according to the type of germs that cause pneumonia. Okay. Can you see this? First is your bacteria, that is your bacterial pneumonia. That was caused by your Streptococcus pneumoniae. That is the name of the organism that was causing pneumonia. So this is one cause, that is the bacteria. Next is your virus. Virus can also lead to pneumonia. What virus? Adenovirus. Then comes your fungal pneumonia. So fungal pneumonia means histoplasma. Histoplasma is the name of the organism that can lead to your fungal pneumonia. Then there is other type, which is your parasitic pneumonia, which is caused by the parasite Ascaris. So all this, your bacteria, virus, fungi and other kind of parasites. So all this can lead to pneumonia. Now the thing is, your first classification is community acquired pneumonia. Okay. So community acquired pneumonia, under that we have like, so this is the kind of pneumonia that you get outside of the hospital. Okay. Community acquired pneumonia means the kind of pneumonia that you get from the community but not from the hospital or healthcare facilities. That is your community acquired pneumonia. Okay, not from the hospital or healthcare facility but from the community. From your own community you get the disease or the infection. So now this can be caused by your bacteria or other bacteria like organisms such as mycoplasma, the fungi and also viruses. Okay, including the COVID-19 virus. Okay, this can also lead to your pneumonia. That was your community acquired. Next we have your hospital acquired pneumonia. So you can note this down, like the kind of infection that we get while staying in a hospital, that we call as nosocomial infection. Okay, N-O-S-O, nosocomial, C-O-M-I-A-L, nosocomial. So within your nosocomial infection are the ones that you get from the hospital. Means you are admitted for one reason to the hospital, but due to the exposure to, say in a hospital there are many kind of patients. Okay, so you will also get the germs everywhere. So one need to be very careful during their hospital stay. Okay, so because of some kind of lack of awareness, maybe of the patient or maybe of the healthcare workers. Okay, so because of the lack of awareness, one disease can spread from one person to the other. So the person during their hospital stay, they might get some other kind of infection. Like they were admitted for one kind of problem, but along with that they will get some other diseases because there is so much of germs in the hospital. So if proper care is not taken, the person can get some other kind of diseases, and within these your infections like pneumonia, then your urinary tract infection, these are very common. So the pneumonia that you get from hospital, these are called your hospital acquired pneumonia. Okay. These are your hospital acquired pneumonia. And usually the people who are at the ICUs and at the ventilators, these people are more prone to get the hospital acquired pneumonia. Next is your healthcare acquired pneumonia. First one is your community acquired, then was your hospital acquired. Third is your healthcare acquired. So what is healthcare acquired? Healthcare acquired is, this is from any kind of healthcare facility apart from your hospital. Okay, like this may be your, it may be from the outpatient clinics. Okay, maybe from the clinics, or sometimes the other healthcare center, for example the dialysis centers. Okay, you have different centers, no, for your, like, you have healthcare centers, primary healthcare centers, sub centers, then you have got clinics. Okay, then there are this kidney dialysis center. So all these healthcare facility you can get, because there are also higher chances of infection. So through this, if you get pneumonia, that is called your healthcare acquired pneumonia. So clear till now? Hospital acquired,
Ma'am.
community, and healthcare acquired. And the last is your aspiration pneumonia. Okay, aspiration, ASPIRATION, aspiration pneumonia. So what is aspiration pneumonia? Aspiration pneumonia is like when you aspirate something. Okay, when you aspirate something into your airways. For example, that day I was teaching you about that if you talk while you take your food, the food may not go into your food pipe, but rather it might enter into your windpipe. Okay, so means if the epiglottis that was lying above your larynx, it used to close. Okay, when so that the food and the other fluid cannot pass into the windpipe. But when the epiglottis is unable to close, or when you are normal gag reflex is affected. Gag reflex means whenever you something goes inside your mouth, you start coughing. No, you start coughing, you have a tendency to vomit it out. That is your gag reflex. So when this gag reflex is affected, or there is some problem with your brain and your epiglottis is not closing, so what happens in that case is the epiglottis is unable to prevent this water and food from entering your airway. So in these cases also you start getting pneumonia. This kind of pneumonia is called as your aspiration pneumonia. Okay, when food and drink, or maybe your vomit and saliva, they go and enter your lungs. Means they should have gone through your food pipe, but instead they have entered your windpipe, and now they have their way to the lungs. So that is called your aspiration pneumonia. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So risk factors, I already told you about the age group, that is people older than 65 years of age and the younger children who are below 2 years of age. So they have a risk of getting pneumonia. Other risk factor is being hospitalized. Okay, because since you are in a hospital, you will have higher risk of getting the infection, especially in the ICUs and in the ventilator. Then in case of the chronic diseases, for example, if you are having other lung diseases, for example asthma or COPD or heart disease, so in these cases your lungs are already affected, so a small amount of exposure to the pathogen will lead to the infection. Next is your weakened or suppressed immune system, for example the people having HIV AIDS. Next is your smoking. So smoking, it already damages your natural defense system. Okay, so smoking, it has various complications. Okay, first is, so it will affect your lungs, and apart from affecting your lungs and your airways, it will also like suppress your immune system. So all these are the risk factors for getting pneumonia. Next, there are some complications of pneumonia, means what can be the other risk associated with it. So first is your bacteremia, BACTEREMIA. Bacteremia. So what does bacteremia means? This means the bacteria in your bloodstream. Okay, when the bacteria goes into your bloodstream, it mixes with your blood, then you will start getting bacteremia. Now what happens after bacteremia is dead? Your blood, it flows through your body. So it goes to the other organs as well. Now when the bacteria from the lungs, it goes into your circulation, now all of your organs will start getting an exposure to the bacteria. So it can result to organ failure, right? So pneumonia can be that harmful that it can lead to failure of other organs as well. For example, your kidney failure, okay, because of the bacteria that has mixed up with the blood. Apart from this complication, you will have like difficulty in breathing. There will be breathing problem, that is for sure. Next is fluid accumulation around the lungs, which you call as pleural effusion. Now I'll explain that to you with a diagram note. Okay, see, these were the alveoli, no? These were the alveoli. As you can see this black arrow where these white lines end, at the end of it will be your alveoli. So in case of pneumonia, what happens is that these fluid, it gets accumulated in this alveoli. Okay, it should have been in the alveoli, but when the fluid is more in the alveoli, it comes to this pleural space. Which one? This blue one. Okay, so when fluid is present in this pleural space or in this pleura, pleura is the protective covering of the lung, as you can see in bluish color. So when the fluid, it comes from your alveoli into this pleura, then we call it pleural effusion. So pleural effusion can be another complication. That means the fluid, it moves from the alveoli to your pleura. Clear? Pleural effusion. Clear? Pleural effusion. Is it clear? Okay. So another complication can be your lung abscesses. So lung abscesses is nothing but these are some kind of fluid or mucus form, that is the pus form that gets filled in the cavity of your lungs. Okay. So these are your complications. Now how can you prevent it? Prevention is that you need to get vaccinated. Okay, vaccinated against the some kind of, you cannot get vaccinated against all the, like you will not know whether you will be exposed to the virus or the bacteria or whatever it is. So you can just get vaccinated against the virus. So you will, whatever you get, so for the flu or for your cold, so you need to get vaccinated against it. And the children also needs to get vaccinated. Okay, so because the children below 2 years of age, they are at a higher risk, then you need to practice good hygiene. Okay, as I told you, like you need to wash your hands properly, you need to sanitize your hands. So these are some good hygiene that you need to maintain. Like if you cough or you sneeze and after that you put your hands while sneezing, so after that you need to wash your hands before touching any other object. So these are some kind of good hygiene that you can practice. Apart from it, you should quit smoking. Okay, because it damage your lungs natural defense system. So quit smoking and keep your immune system strong. Through your exercise, through healthy diet and through proper sleep, you can keep your immune system strong. So these are some preventive measures. After this comes your diagnosis. So in diagnosis, first is your blood test. Now why blood test? Because the if you do the blood test, then you will get to know by what kind of organism you are affected. As I told you, in case of bacteremia, the bacteria will go into your blood. So this can also happen in case of the viruses or the fungi. They might also get mixed up with your blood. So if you do a proper blood test, you will get to know what kind of organism is affecting your system. Okay. Next is your sputum test. Sputum test means whatever you have coughed out. So they, after a cough, so they analyze that sample to find out what kind of infection. So it is the same with the blood test to find out the kind of infectious organism. Next is your pulse oximetry. Pulse oximetry is to check the amount of oxygen in your bloodstream. That is the oxygen saturation. And the normal amount is 95 to 100, or you can say it's 100. Okay. Next is your CT scan and also pleural fluid culture. So as I told you that if you will have pneumonia, you will also have pleural effusion, means the fluid also moves to your pleura. So they will take out a sample of your pleural fluid and they will go for a study to find out the kind of infection. Apart from it, the chest x-ray. Now why chest x-ray? Because since there will be your, can you see it here with the arrows, the lung with the arrows, you can see that that is a bit whitish in color. So yesterday I showed you another x-ray where it was more darker. So whenever there is your gaseous accumulation, gas or air in the lung, then it will be more darker. When there will be fluid, it will be more whitish in color. So since here there is more amount of fluid accumulation, okay, that might be in your alveoli or might be in your pleura, there was more amount of fluid accumulation. So because of that, this will start appearing whitish in color, okay, because of the fluid that is present within the lung. As you can see, one lung is clear, the other lung it is a bit hazy, and also it is whitish in color. So this is because of the fluid accumulation. Clear till here about the diagnosis? Clear? Okay. Next comes your treatment. Treatment is, of course, you can give antibiotics for the bacterial pneumonia. So you can go for antibiotics in those cases. Then some symptomatic management, for example, the analgesics for your pain, then antipyretics for your fever. Then you will have this cough medications so that you can cough out properly. Then this expectorants they help in loosening of the mucus so that you can cough out easily, okay. So these are some kind of treatment. Also you need to get like plenty of rest, okay, and you need to stay hydrated and take the medications as required. And apart from this, physiotherapy techniques, we will go for them. I'll teach you the pulmonary rehab, okay, like what can be done about for the breathing exercises, what about the lung hygiene. So I'll teach that to you in another class about the physiotherapy treatment. So for all of the lung disease, most of the physiotherapy treatment, the line of treatment is same, okay. And also there is this ICD drainage, okay. ICD drainage means your intracostal drainage, okay, intracostal drainage. So what is intracostal drainage? Can you say this? There is this fluid, okay, whenever this fluid gets accumulated in the pleura, that is the protective covering of the lung, okay. So in those cases what you do is, this is a chest tube, you insert the chest tube into the pleura. After that there is this drainage container. So when you start this drainage container through the vacuum pressure, as you can see this in this yellowish color, the pleura it is filled with fluid. So this fluid, with the help of the vacuum pressure, it is moved out and then it is collected in this drainage container, okay. So in these cases the excess fluid it can be moved out from your pleural space, okay. And there are some other kind of drainage techniques as well to move out from your alveoli. So this ICD drainage, it is for your pleura. Now if it is present like within your lungs, that is in your alveoli and all, then you have some video assisted thoracoscopic surgery, that is you call as VATS, VATS, video assisted thoracoscopic surgery. And also the chest tube drains, okay. So when you insert these chest tubes, what happens is that the excess, if your medications are not working, then you go for these chest tubes. So these are inserted into your lungs or in your pleural space, and after that they start the machine, and with the help of the vacuum pressure, the fluid that is accumulated, so it comes out, okay. So that is a therapeutic technique. Also what they can do is, the fluid that comes out now, they can send that fluid for study as well, okay. So when they will study that fluid, they will also get to know what is causing the infection. So for that reason also they drain out the fluid, and also to clear the lungs also they drain out the fluid. So this was about your treatment. Clear till here? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this was all about your pneumonia. Okay. So this ends up your second unit. Okay. So your second and third unit are completed. So in second unit, I taught you about bronchial asthma, bronchitis, bronchiectasis, so and emphysema. These were your obstructive lung disease, and your pneumonia was under your restrictive lung disease. Okay, and regarding the physiotherapeutic treatment, I'll teach that to you in the next class. Okay, so you will need that for your pulmonary rehab. So I'll teach you that. Okay, so I'll send you the notes, and CR, you send me the attendance. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll wind up the class now. If you have got any doubts regarding the diseases, you can ask me, okay? In the group also, you can ask me. Feel free.